This simple hack will change everything when it comes to painting. If you're like me, most of you have 24 colors or more in your watercolor palette. But just because you have more does not necessarily mean a better painting. In fact, loading up your palette with too many paints can actually lead to muddy messes as well as confusing blends. So if your paintings have felt a little off lately, this actually might be the reason why. You've probably heard this before, to limit your palette to just 3 to 5 colors, especially if you're a beginner and you don't fully understand how your colors work together. And this is the thing that I always love when people tell you limit your color palette or give you an instruction but don't tell you actually how to do it. Well, today I'm actually going to show you how you can actually do this, especially if you're working with a color palette that has 12 colors or 24 or even 48. How do you actually choose what colors work best in a limited color palette? Now, if this is the first time you are here, please pause real quick this video and check out my full color mixing playlist. I'll make sure to link it down below. This is episode number 4, and trust me, it'll make life way a lot more easier if you go and watch those earlier videos. This episode will make a lot more sense. But basically, thanks to our custom color wheel that we have been working on and building over the past couple of weeks, today I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to build limited color palettes that are easy to work with, as well as really add a punch to your paintings. Okay, let's go ahead and build this custom palette that's harmonious, intentional, as well as super fun to paint with. So today I'm going to be walking you through how I chose the colors for painting this whimsical little tiger. First, pick a main color. For me, since I'm painting a tiger, my main color is going to be orange. Then I'm going to choose 2 colors that are on either side of this one on my color wheel. So a red and a yellow. Analogous colors, I think I'm saying that correctly. I looked it up on Google and that's what it sounds like. But basically, it's a group of colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel and naturally play well with one another. This is going to make a harmonious trio of colors that work well with one another. But if we just work with these 3 colors, your painting is not going to have the depth and the creativity, basically the dynamic effect that you can get with watercolor. So now is where the key part is. We are going to be adding a contrasting color to our limited color palette. So what I'm going to do is look at my color wheel, and the 3 colors that I chose were Scarlet Lake, Cadmium Orange Light, as well as Windsor Lemon. My contrasting colors for all 3 of these would be Windsor Blue Green Shade, French Ultramarine, as well as Windsor Violet. What I like to do is swatch a large section of my contrasting color on paper and then use my 3 analogous colors to basically put around the outside of my contrasting color and see what kind of muted tones or muted hues I will get from these 4 colors. So for me, out of the 3 contrasting colors that I chose, the one that I really vibed with was Windsor Violet. It added just enough contrast to create depth in my colors, especially if I'm wanting to do shadows, as well as a richness without muddying the color too much. So for my tiger, my final 4 color palette was going to be Scarlet Lake, Cadmium Orange Light, Windsor Lemon, and then Windsor Violet for contrast. What I recommend is putting all of these on a mixing tray and then slightly blending all of them, but don't mix all of them all the way up. If you do that, you're going to get muddy colors. But by slightly blending all of them, what's going to happen is as you're picking up color, you're going to get more variety in your painting because it's not always going to be picking up the same color mixture that you had before. And this actually creates a looser look to your watercolors. And since we're working with a limited color palette, we can play a little bit more without worrying about these colors becoming muddy too quickly. So while I paint this in a time lapse, let's go over some of the pros of using a limited color palette and why it is such a game changer. The first thing is fewer paints actually equal more control, which everybody loves more control in watercolor. Watercolor is already very, very difficult. So by adding more control to basically your painting process, it makes life a lot easier. Another reason why this is a game changer to your watercolor paintings is that fewer paints actually equal better blends. And this is because we have fewer pigments playing on the paper. So that means you're going to have less granulation or less surprises basically when you are mixing different pigments together. And typically your colors will merge a lot smoother and more naturally, giving more vibrant and clean transitions. And then, and in my opinion, the most important one is fewer paints actually overwhelm me less. So if I'm adding a lot of paints, I really have to keep track of, especially when I'm on my mixing tray, what colors I need to keep apart from each other and which colors actually work well together. If you are starting watercolor or you're struggling with color mixing, this can be a whole nother level of stress that you don't need to worry about. This is why they say work with limited color palettes, because I don't have to worry about trying to mix certain colors together. I already know in advance that these colors work well. So going back to my Tiger color palette, I have 3 colors that work really, really well together since they're right next to each other on the color wheel. So these 3 can actually blend really easily together and merge with one another really well. The color that I really have to keep track of is my contrasting color. So I'm really only having to pay attention to one color in this particular color palette. Now, if you still feel overstressed with this, use 2 mixing trays or 2 separate sections. Put your harmonious colors in one section and just kind of let them blend together. And then put your harmonious colors plus the contrasting color in another palette that's separate, so that if your colors start to get a little bit too muddy, you can always just wipe it down and start over. And this is honestly the easiest limited color palette that you can play around with that actually gives you a lot of dynamic. I find that if you just work with colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, your painting will still look a little bit flat because you're using colors that are right next to each other. So they're very, very close. So you won't have a lot of that dynamic transitioning or even loose kind of color effects that you can get with watercolor until you add that contrasting color in. And before you go, let's go ahead and name our little whimsical tiger. So drop some name ideas in the comments down below. Upvote any of your favorites that you see, and I'll be picking one to reveal for the next episode, plus a shout out to the person who named it. I hope this helped you on your color mixing journey and helped you be able to pick out limited colors. Thanks for watching to the very end. Lots of love, happy painting, and I will talk to you next time.